Me and Rick and Melissa are hanging out here. Okay, so welcome again, everybody. It's great to have everyone here for Torah study. Here and here and here and here. We're going to continue in our reading of Genesis, and you'll see Genesis on the screen over here and Genesis in front of you in your Bibles here.
Well done.
We got through some of the creation story, and now we're up to Adam and Eve and the Garden of Eden and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. We're on verse 25 of chapter 2. So 2:25, just in time for some nudity. And then we're good to go. Okay, let's do the blessing for the study of Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asot b'divrei Torah. Amen. Okay.
I have glasses.
What?
Now the serpent was the shrewdest of all the wild beasts the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, "Did God really say you shall not eat of any tree of the garden?" The woman replied to the serpent, "We may eat of the fruit of the other trees of the garden. It is only about fruit of the tree in the middle of the garden that God said, 'You shall not eat of it or touch it, lest you die.'" And the serpent said to the woman, "You are not going to die, but God knows that as soon as you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like a divine being who knows good and bad." When the woman saw that the tree was good for eating and a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was desirable as a source of wisdom, she took of its fruit and ate. She also gave some to her husband, and he ate. Then the eyes of both of them were open, and they perceived that they were naked. And they sewed together fig leaves and made themselves loincloths.
Okay, there we go. So we have a little trickery to start our day, a little trickery. So let's dive in. So there they were, wearing nothing but their birthday suits, hanging out in the Garden of Eden. Good times had by all, and they felt great. But of course, now the serpent comes in to ruin the party. The serpent in Christian thought is representative of Satan, of the devil. In Jewish thought, more the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. I'm sure, of course, there are many other interpretations one can mention, but the serpent is here to ruin the party for everybody. And so starts messing with Eve right away. And asks about the tree and what did God say and what do you think's going to happen. What's of course the irony here in terms of Eve and her knowledge of what she can do and what she can't do? What's Eve's instructions that she gives back?
Don't eat the fruit.
And what else?
Do not even touch it.
There you go. Not even touch it, right? And if we scanned back in our reading, that is not part of the instruction at all, if memory serves. But even more so, if we scan back, over here is when God gives the order, right? On 16:17, right? Chapter 2. God commanded the man, saying, "You may eat of all the trees, except for the tree of knowledge." And this happens, and who's not even born yet? Eve. Eve's not even in the picture yet. Eve gets created later. So Eve knows garnished about this, at least from God, according to our scripture, at least. Now, of course, there might have been a little sideline conversation that happens, that we're not privy to. But at least the biblical text doesn't have any conversation between God and Eve about anything at this point. Maybe Adam sort of wised her up again, and maybe gave her the wrong instructions here. Because again, God mentions nothing about touching. God only says about eating the tree. So what do we make about this touching stuff?
Exaggeration.
Exaggeration. Why?
That's not what God said.
No, but I'm saying why do we have the exaggeration? What's the point of it? What's the purpose of it?
Enticement.
Or the other way, I think maybe dissuading Eve, saying, hey, don't even touch the tree. Forget about eating it. Don't even touch it. Because if you touch it, maybe you're going to want to eat it, and that's not going to help you, right? So take away all the allure and don't even touch it, stay away from it. It's like, if I don't want the kids to do something, or whatever, the kids, I think a good example of this, but it's like trying to make an extra rule, that break that rule, it's okay, but it's going to lead to another bad thing later, and so it's trying to create that fence around the Torah, as we discussed in last week's Adult B'nai Mitzvah class. The idea of don't even touch it, because if you touch it, then you're going to want to eat it.
That God tells Adam.
Makes him want it more.
He doesn't ever mention that. It's almost as if maybe she's not let on to know that it's the tree of knowledge.
Yeah, we're saying here that we're not even sure Eve has any idea what this tree even is, right? She just refers to it as the tree in the middle, not the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Maybe it's all she can handle, Rick. You got to keep it simple, Eve. That's what I'm saying. Maybe that's the issue. I don't think that's what it is, but yeah. I mean, it's really got to keep it straightforward. Don't confuse for Eve, But this idea that it's that tree. It's in the middle. Don't even touch it. And this thing says, "Nah, you know what? It's fine. It'll be all right. You're not gonna die. Because you did have die before, right? You shall be doomed to die on 17, right over here." On 17, from the moment you eat of it, you'll be doomed to die. And he says, "No, forget about it. What are you worried about? You want to be cool, don't you? All the cool kids are doing it. They're eating from the tree, and they're having parties and good times. You don't want to be a square. You got to eat from the fruit of the tree. That's the good stuff." And the woman looks at it and goes, "Oh, what a wonderful pomegranate or fig or apple or whatever it's going to be. How good the fruit is. Looks delicious." And then eats it. And of course, if your wife comes up to you and says, "Here, honey, try this," what are you going to do? Yeah, you got to have a happy wife, happy life here. You can't just be, refusing food. "Hey, honey, try this." Of course, why not? Not going to ask too many questions. And so he's going to eat a little bit too. Delicious. Who can resist a nice piece of fruit? Could use one right now, actually. It wouldn't be bad. Nice piece of fruit, very tasty. And then, there we go. He eats it and his eyes are opened. They're both wide awake. It's mind-expanding fruit. Okay? And so they have it. The world is all colorful and bright again. It's like in The Wizard of Oz, when it's black and white in the beginning, and then it goes to Munchkin Land and everything's all bright and cheery and whatever it is. The world is opened up anew. Life is great. Yes. Then they realize they got no clothes. So they decide, you know what, not great to prance around naked. So we're going to make ourselves some clothing, some skirts, some loincloths, whatever it is, but some kind of garment. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Any questions so far?
There was no one else around for them to be embarrassed.
Yeah, that's true too. No one else around to be embarrassed. But we have time here. It's those birds sort of watching them, a little bit, those animals walking by making comments. You don't want that.
Is this setting up man and woman's personality, supposedly from the outset, that the woman, God tells the man, but the woman is the one that's enticed by the serpent, and she's the one who talks to him and says yes. It just seems that it's the start of
it's the blame.
Blame and stereotyping man and woman.
Yep.
From the very outset.
I definitely see the blame game, which we're going to get into a minute here. We're going to get a lot of finger pointing. I'm not sure as much about personalities I think it's fun for, I'm certainly playing with it a bit, obviously reading into some of these comments in terms of the biblical text. But I'm not sure how much there is there characteristics that you get from a gender perspective. I think it tells you a little bit about relationships and marriage in the beginning, maybe. But again, that's probably me reading into it, into the text a little bit as well. But it really is, again, and you say we never do anything together. We just shared some illicit fruit. Come on. Bring us closer together. You don't take me dancing, but you can have some fruit with me. That's the least you can do.
She didn't die.
Yeah, we didn't die. I'm fine, right?
But if but since you've done it, we are here because she did it.
Well, she definitely
But wouldn't be in Cain and Abel.
You started the ball rolling. I'll put it that way. Again, part of the story why we're not in paradise now, right? Is this narrative? Let's take a look at verse 8, and we'll have Melissa give that a read over here, nice and loud, Melissa, for the people at home.
They heard the sound of the Lord God moving about in the garden at the breezy time of day, and the man and his wife hid from the Lord God among the trees of the garden. The Lord God called out to the man and said to him, "Where are you?" He replied, "I heard the sound of you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid." Then he asked, "Who told you that you were naked? Did you eat of the tree from which I had forbidden you to eat?" The man said, "The woman you put at my side, she gave me of the tree, and I ate." And the Lord God said to the woman, "What is this you have done?" The woman replied, "The serpent duped me, and I ate." Then the Lord God.
All right there is good. Right there is good for now. Perfect. So so we have a little finger pointy right now, right?
A lot.
So first you get the nice time of day, a little cool breeze in the air, right? The humans are walking around, not bad. A little cool breeze blowing, it's good. And then they hear what? They hear God schlepping around the garden, which is in itself fascinating. As if God is, a presence in the garden, actually walking around, taking in the air, so God going out for his constitutional. And then as God is taking the walk, he hears, they hear God, and they dive, behind the trees. And God's like, "What are you doing? Where are you? Peekaboo." Like, I don't know. Like where are you hiding here? What's going on? And Adam says, "Look, I heard you walking around. You're not a quiet walker. You got a very, a very inimitable gait. We're walking around. I can hear you. And I hid, because I was naked. Eek, and so hides behind the trees. And God said, "Wait a minute. How do you know you're naked or not? Who told you you're naked?" And then, God quickly jumps to, "Did you eat from the tree?" And the man throws Eve under the bus hard, really quick. It doesn't take him more than 2 seconds. He's like, "Nope, her fault. Nope, right under the bus." And actually, by the way, a close reading, right? It's not that he throws Eve under the bus alone. Adam throws God under the bus. The woman whom you gave me. You gave me this person, next to me, and she gave me the fruit, It is not only my fault or Eve's fault, it's your fault too. And then God goes to the woman and says, "What did you do?" And the woman goes, "It's the serpent's fault. He tricked me. He duped me. And then I ate." And so everyone's pointing fingers at everybody. No one's taking responsibility. I find it really interesting that one of the first stories that we have is about accountability, and it's about responsibility for our action. One can argue in the next story as well, when we get to Cain and Abel, a lot of that is also about accountability and responsibility, for one's actions. And so it's a really fascinating text, but also to pointing at each other, accusing each other, and God's not buying any of it. Okay. So with that said, we're going to go to verse 14. If everyone who's at home can mute if you're not reading, that would be great. That way we don't get some of the background noise. I'd appreciate it. And Leah, you feeling up to reading a little bit? You can unmute.
Okay. Then God Eternal said to the serpent, because you did this, you, out of all the beasts, all the wild animals, are under a curse. On your belly shall you crawl, eating dust all the days of your life. And between you and the woman, and between her seed and your seed, I am setting enmity. They shall strike at your head, and you shall strike at their heel. And to the woman, God said, I am doubling and redoubling your pains of pregnancy. With pain shall you bear children, yet your craving shall be for your man, and he shall govern you. Now to the man, God said, because you hearkened to your wife and ate of the tree about which I commanded you, saying, do not eat it, the soil is now cursed on your account. Only through pain shall you eat of it as long as you live. It shall sprout thorns and thistles for you when you would eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your brow shall you eat bread till you return to the earth, that earth you were taken from, for your dust you are, and to dust you shall return.
Okay, so God laying the smackdown here. God is laying out the heavy duty discipline. So it's sort of reverse order, right? And so God first speaks to man, so to woman, to man, to serpent, and now God's going to serpent first here, and says, "Hey, serpent." And by the way, serpent doesn't get to tell the serpent side of the story. Not that there might be one, but right, but the serpent doesn't get to have a little, defense. Everyone else got, a question. Why did you do this? Serpent doesn't get that response. Serpent has no justification. So serpent gets punished. There was an idea here that the original snake, the original serpent, had legs. So it had, little feetsies that it could walk on. And after this, now it has no feet, so it crawls on the belly instead. It's sort of in the dirt and in the muck, not being able to be above it in a way. And between you and the woman, and then between the descendants is going to be animosity, blood feud, way back when. You see a snake, you smack it. I don't. Others might. I get out of the room because I don't deal with that at all. So, but the snake, is going to be a problem, right? The people are going to swing shovels at them, and then they're going to bite the human beings in the legs, so there's going to be some animosity. Don't bother them, they don't bother you. That's what I say. That, help! But a couple things I'll say. So yes, so that's the snake. The woman, rough go. Pregnancy is gonna suck. That's basically have here at 16. That's gonna be a long go here. That's gonna be a lot of pain, and more pain. And that's gonna be the reality of pregnancy and childbearing. Yet, you'll still be with your husband, and the husband shall be the boss. Not everyone's favorite quote from the Bible. So you get to usually a resounding round of boos about that he shall govern you. Now the man gets smacked too because you listened to your wife and that wasn't a good plan to eat of the tree. Now you're going to work really hard in your life to get fruit. This vision of the Garden of Eden is a place where just like stuff happens, right? You're sort of there and you look around. Oh, there's a pear over there. How lovely. Oh, there's, an apple over there. Oh, there's some other veggies and whatnot. And, the meat's already grilled for you on the table, kind of, it's all there already. You don't have to work for it. You don't have to do anything. You just sort of snap your fingers, and then you get food. If that, right? But now that's not going to be life. You're gonna have to get out there with your gardening supplies and tools, and you're gonna work, and it's gonna be hard, and the soil's gonna be mean to you sometimes. You're gonna have thorns and thistles. You're just gonna schwitz, you're gonna sweat, you're gonna work until you die. And then once you die, you'll be ground back into the dust from which you are tilling. So Huzzah, we're back. And that's life, as they say. Okay, got a question here. No, I don't think Eve has. So the question is, does Eve have an idea of what pregnancy even is? Does she know this will be what she does? No, I don't think she has any idea. I mean, certainly not from a biblical context do we have any real sense. I mean, I would guess at this point she might have some inclination, because or else this verse would make really no sense to her at all, of what's going to happen. But we don't have a sense, right? You know, that she knows what pregnancy even is yet. We don't know. Honestly, not much to do in the Garden of Eden. You know, like it's a lot of paradise and nudity. You know, so I'm guessing the honeymoon period lasted a while. But that's, again, maybe just my guess. And yeah, and I don't see any birth control in the Garden of Eden, so I also don't know about that either. So I think eventually she would be probably fated to get pregnant. As
Rabbi,
happened.
can you explain 15?
15.
He doesn't have any tools. How can he? How I get? And they have no seeds. So how can he eat anything?
Which on verse 15?
Yeah, I don't understand that verse.
So he's talking to the snake here, that there's going to be like a difficulties. There's going to be struggle and strife between snakes and human beings all the time. And so that the snake and the woman and her children, you know, and the snake's children, it's like talking about how that we're going to be perpetually at each other's throats, or at our heads and heels, so to speak. That snakes and humans will never get along ever again, because the snake tricked the woman, and the woman, you know, shouldn't have trusted the snake. And so from now on, sons of human beings and daughters of human beings will fight with sons and daughters of snakes forever, and will constantly be fighting and be bitter enemies, longtime rivals. We are the Yankees and Red Sox. We are, you know, the Celtics and Lakers. And I wish I had more examples in my head right now, but I don't have any. But Ohio State and Michigan, says Melissa, you know, for that one in. So that's what it's going to be. It's going to be like a blood feud forever between human beings and snakes. We're never going to be friends. We're never going to exchange Hanukkah cards. It's a shame.
Our sages interpreted this section.
Say again, Bob?
How did our sages interpreted this section, the rabbis?
Yeah, I think that they interpreted this, if they're going to, I sort of gave you the literal, for the more midrashic, right, for the more interpretation sense. I think that talking about the constant battle between our good impulses and our not so good impulses, that we're always going to be troubled, we're always going to be tormented in a way by the voice in our head that says, do the bad thing, do the bad thing. You know, oh, it's not so bad, whatever it is. That we're always going to have that voice in our head that are going to sort of strike at us, literally sort of striking at our heads to try to get us to do the wrong thing. So I think that that's certainly one way. And
You know you want to.
you know you want to, right? It's only a little bit, it's only this, it's only that, it's only one time. It's sort of that voice. You know, you want the apple, eat the apple. In this case, it might be the second slice of pie, you know, but it's the same sort of idea. You know, the idea that you want to have that, you know, the temptation is always going to be against us in some way.
I had a former law partner who used to tell me that there was a Christian sect in France that worships the serpent because they say the serpent gave us choice.
So we had a question here about a French sect of Christians, I'm guessing, yeah, that actually worship. They have some sort of serpentine worship, because the snake, you know, in this story, if we're not looking at him as the bad guy, the snake gives us choice, right? So this goes back to the question, right, of like, what's so bad here, you know, in terms of like what happens? Because if what happens here is that we get consciousness, you know, we get a greater understanding of the world, right? Is that negative, right? You know, would we be happier living on a commune somewhere, you know, like a naked hippies in the 60s, instead of just like doing our things, having psychotropic drugs and not worrying about anything else, right? Is that better? But once you like eat the fruit, you have to get a job. Is the way you can look at it, right? Like real life begins when they eat the fruit of the tree. That earlier, it's just fantasy land. It's paradise. It's great, but it's not real life. So should we condemn the snake, right, for sort of being the one who brings on this different consciousness that says to the human beings, now you're going to know right from wrong. Now you're going to know good and evil. Shouldn't we know right from wrong? Like, isn't that something that we need in life, is to know right from wrong? That's important. So I think that's that question of maybe the snake can be seen as the hero of the piece. Yeah, like that's the trade-off, right, in a way, that the snake is doing his best to, get us. You can take the blue pill or the red pill. Movie reference, somebody? Come on, somebody help me.
Movie coming out.
Yes,
Matrix.
The Matrix. Thank you. Maybe not the crowd for The Matrix. But that being said, The Matrix. It was like 20 years ago, guys. Come on.
New one's coming
The new
out.
one's coming out soon. I was in college. It was 20 years ago. But yes, The Matrix movies. What's the one? Alice in Wonderland. Eat me, drink me, whatever it is. It's like, like you grow in soul. One pill makes you larger. One pill makes you small. The one that mother gives you
Doesn't do anything.
doesn't do anything at all. Go ask Alice. No, nothing. Okay, we'll keep going. I'm over 2.
Jefferson Airplane.
Jefferson Airplane. Come on. I'm over 2. Okay, that's okay. We're gonna keep on moving before I break into song again. We're gonna go to verse 20, because by the way, up to this point, we have Adam, but the woman's got no name. And so now we need to give her a little bit of a name. So Sharon, you want to pick up here? The man called his wife.
The man called his wife's name Eve, for she would be the mother of all the living. And God Eternal made outfits out of skin for Adam and his wife and clothed them. God Eternal then said, "Look, the humans are like us, knowing all things. Now they may even reach out to take fruit from the tree of life and eat and live forever." So the eternal God drove them out of the Garden of Eden to work the soil from which they had been taken, expelling the humans and stationing cherubim to the east of Eden, and the flaming blade of a flashing sword to guard the way to the tree of life.
Excellent. Okay, well, maybe not excellent for Adam and Eve, but so we have Eve here gets the name Chava. Chava, the idea of life, of all living. And so that's all we have here for Eve. And then God's a nice dude, doesn't, hold a grudge too much here, and get some little leotards, make some outfits out of, skin, so they don't have to walk around with like little grass skirts like they were in Hawaii, if they have to have actual clothing. So God makes them clothing. God's a tailor as well, right? Remember from Yom Kippur, Lord and tailor, so God can sew a little bit, create a little outfit. And then God says, you know what, talking to the angels now, humans might be too smart for their own good. And if they eat from the tree of life, they're going to be immortals. We can't have that. So we're going to boot them out of here. And now you got to go get to work. And then God stations cherubim. What are cherubim?
Angels.
Angels. We had it here in the room. We have it on Zoom as well. Angels, cherubs. We have this vision sometimes of cherubs, the little fat angels that are little baby angels. But that's something else, in a way. The cherubs weren't meant to be that originally. That's something that came later. So the cherubim are sort of big angels that are standing with swords, flaming blades, I guess. Sure. That way you can't get back in. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. You're out. No way back in. Can't mess with the flaming sword angel. So you got to go get to work. And thus endeth the story of the Garden of Eden.
Oh, excuse me.
Go ahead, please.
I have a question. Where was it if the rabbis discuss this, where was it mentioned that there was ever a wedding ceremony that they called them a wife and a husband? When did that take place?
Never.
So
Never.
they don't really have to be married.
They don't have a ceremony called marriage. The marriage ceremony doesn't exist. That's not a biblical construct. That comes later.
No witnesses anyway.
Yeah, there are no witnesses. We hear as well. You can't have a wedding. You have to have two witnesses. No. No, the way you were married in the Bible is that you were either sold to your husband for X number of dollars, which is usually, there was always a financial transaction, in the works for weddings, and which is still true today, by the way. That's why you get a ring when you get married, right? Because there's a financial component to transaction to all wedding ceremonies. So the ring is a descendant, so to speak. I don't know what the right word is, but it's what follows from that tradition of there being a financial exchange. So that was the primary way that you got married. There was some sort of financial settlement, and of course, the old-fashioned way to get to a marriage in biblical times. Consummation, that's it. Which is, by the way, also lasted thousands of years as well. Especially amongst, royal families, is that in order for the marriage to be official, there has to be consummation of the marriage. And you can still to this day annul a marriage if the marriage isn't consummated, so to speak. And so that was the biblical view. It wasn't like they had a rabbi, and some manischewitz and a chuppah, back then. That wasn't the case. So there is no marriage. That's why when you hear some of these jackanapes say that, the Bible defines marriage between a husband and a wife, you can say, yeah, not so much, because it ain't in the Bible. At least not in our Bible. And I'm pretty sure it ain't in the New Testament either. So with all that said,
I have a quick question too.
Okay, is it okay? Go ahead.
Okay, a quick question. Why do we have to guard the tree of life now that we know what happens when we eat of the tree of life?
So they guarded the tree of immortality, right? Yeah, the tree of life, because what they ate is ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So they ate from that one first. There's another special tree. There are two special trees. And the tree of life is different. And these shifty human beings already stole once, so you got to make sure they don't steal again. You have to have some dude there, all geared up and ready to go. Should have had that from the first tree. Where was the scary angel then with the sword and the I picture him like spinning the sword around like in like a Buckingham Palace guard with the gun, doing that whole thing. But yeah, maybe it's just my head. Okay, that might just be me.
When man become Adam?
When did man become Adam?
Well, I keep seeing the man was now intimate. The man this, the man that, and then all of a sudden it was Adam.
That's a great call, by the way. We did have it early on verse 20. We had Adam, but let's see if he, when Adam gets his name. Let's see.
When God got mad at him.
Yeah, because we have it where God, takes man and places man in the garden. And verse 20, we have Adam capitalized here.
17.
Yeah.
Verse 17, where?
To Adam, he said.
Oh, to Adam, he said. That's interesting, because in this translation, we don't have it.
Oh.
So that's interesting. So yeah, because the man, ha-adam, means man. So I think the question is, when does, we get normalized Adam, which is not really that often in this translation, at least. We get the man. I think in the biblical text we're looking at over here, I think Adam comes in a little more often, but because the man now, so 4:1, what do we have? So hold on for a second. So in the Bible's in front of us on 4:1, what does it say? The man or Adam?
Which number?
So chapter 4, verse 1.
The man.
Yeah, no, I know we have it here, but I'm trying to. The man, yeah. So we get it back and forth a little bit, but not often do we get Adam. we get more of the man this, the man that. His identity is being kept classified because he screwed up so much. Now he's in witness protection.
His name's Boss.
You know, the big boss. Sandy, tell me about the man. You gotta unmute, Sandy. Yay!
Man, thank you. Thank you. The man now was intimate with his wife. She became pregnant and gave birth to Cain, saying, "Both I and the Eternal have made a man."
Oh,
Continued giving birth to his brother Abel. Abel became a shepherd, while Cain tilled the soil.
Okay, and so we got a beautiful baby boy. We got Cain coming into the world, and Eve is like, anything you can do, I can do better. So she creates a man too. Not that hard. God creates a man, she creates a man. And so she has a skill. Here, she can be like God. Right? God creates and she creates. It's actually a very powerful moment when you think about it. The idea that the only one who's created a person before was God. And now Eve gets to create a person too, which is, again, I think pretty cool. And giving God a little credit here as well, right? One can read it that way. And then she continued, so to speak. That's a weird translation, but sure. She continued procreating. And gave birth to his brother Abel. Now we got 2 strapping young men, and that's it. No talk of the kids' lives up till now. Abel's a shepherd, and Cain tilled the soil. We don't get little stories of little baby Cain, little baby Abel. We don't get any stories about their childhood. We just sort of went from birth to working out in the field. Abel's the shepherd. And Cain tills the soil. Okay, fair enough. Everyone's got to have a job, right? Got to get out there, earn a living. Sandy, give me a little more.
Sure. One day, in the course of time, Cain brought some of his harvest as an offering to the Eternal. And Abel, too, brought an offering from among the choice lambs of his flock and their fattest parts.
Sorry, keep going.
No. The Eternal approved Abel and his offering,
but straight.
approved Cain and his offering. Cain was filled with rage. His face fell. The Eternal One then said to Cain, "Why are you so angry? Why your fallen face? Would you not do well to lift it? For if you do not do well, sin is a demon at the door. You are the one it craves, and yet you can govern it."
An interesting translation, my goodness, for this one. I mean, some of those, that's not what I'm used to. And this is a pretty interesting translation. Yeah, that's definitely. So, okay, anyway, before we get to that last part, we get Cain and Abel bringing offerings to God. Cain brings some offerings of vegetables, right? That's what we're getting here, right? Because Cain brings some of the harvest. I think he brings some beets, maybe. I don't like beets. Maybe he bring some beets. Lima beans and Brussels sprouts. I like most of them, to be fair. So, but he's bringing the veggie platter, right?
That's strange. That's strange that he would that God would approve of the murdering of animals and not the harvest of vegetables.
Oh, that's a great point, by the way. A really good point. And so we're going to get to that in a moment. That's a really good point to have in our heads, though. So Cain's offering a veggie platter, and Abel's bringing the meat. He's got what's Arby's. We have the meats. I don't know. I don't eat there. So one of the restaurants, we have the meat or whatever it is. So, they have Abel bringing the lamb chops, the fattiest parts. Ooh, my mouth is watering already. And God agrees. God agrees with me. God was thrilled. God likes the offering, but doesn't approve Cain's offering. Okay. We'll finish up this little part, then we'll talk about it. So then, Cain is really angry, right? Cain's ticked off here. He's like, what's happening? Why isn't my offering any good? And God says to Cain, why are you so upset? Why are you disappointed? wouldn't you be better instead of if you were looking down, looking up? Don't be disappointed. You maybe struck out this time. You can always do better next time. If you don't do well, you're gonna have a problem, right? So don't be too caught up in it, maybe. And if you keep doing bad things, then it's gonna be impossible to stop doing bad things. You have the power to do better next time. That's how I would read it. But the greater question is, go ahead.
Could be that the offering from Cain was nothing special.
So that
was a choice lamb.
That's the most common sort of rabbinical interpretation, is that it says Cain brings some of his harvest, right, to God, but it doesn't specify like it does with Abel. That Abel brings the choice lamb of the flock, right? He brings the best of what he has, the fattiest, most luxuriant parts of the animal. He said that's what he does and burns it up. And as we learn later in Leviticus, God loves a good barbecue, right? God loves that stuff. It says God loves the smell. It's very visceral, that God, reach nikoach, God enjoys the sweet, savory smell of the burning flesh. Right? A little garlic, a little oil, a little salt, it's all you need. That being said, but Cain here, the question is not, I think, about the vegetables. It's not being the choice vegetables. So, I enjoy a nice salad as the rest, very nice if you have the freshest ingredients, right? The imagery here is that Cain is bringing moldy carrots. Then Cain is sort of bringing out the stuff that's sort of like you wouldn't eat, for dinner. The stuff that's a little bit old, a little bit rotten, a little smelly. I'm not going to eat this junk anyway. I'll just make it an offering to God. And God doesn't like that. So that's the most common interpretation of this. Or else, frankly, God looks a little jerky. If God's just rejecting the vegetables because God doesn't like vegetables. Like, I don't think that's really what's implied here. I think it's that God likes, people to offer the best of what they have, not sort of what's lying around at the back of the fridge. Make sense?
I always felt sorry for Cain.
Not wrong. I think that's valid, right? I mean, there are X number of characters in the Bible, and you can sort of rattle them off. But like Cain, Esau, Saul, a lot of these guys get a rough hand, because they're not really sure what to do. They don't seem by their nature to be bad folk. They're just sort of caught in the situation, or they might not know the rules. Cain might not know the rules of how to make a good sacrifice. Who's done it before? No one, right? He's given it a go. And by the way, if you're going to look at this linearly, Cain goes first. Cain is the one who says, "Oh, I'm going to make an offering to God." And it was, I like that too. He's a little brother, pain in the neck, so he's going to imitate his brother, but do it better. Now the younger brother's getting all the praise, and big bro's getting shunned. That's not nice.
Where's mom and dad in all of this?
And I blame the parents. Where's mom and dad in all of this? Not helping out at all. They're not here at all. They're doing whatever they're doing. They're tilling soil and having painful births. But they're not here helping out the kids. These are latchkey children. It's upsetting. Neglected. I can't have it. And so poor Cain is trying to get ahead a little bit, give a veggie offering, and gets smacked around, and then gets a condescending lecture in 6 and 7. So yeah, I would agree with you. Cain gets a little bit of the short shrift here. Okay, so yeah,
some sibling rivalry already has started.
Oh yes, we have our sibling rivalries. We love our sibling rivalry in the Bible. Genesis is many things, but it's not a great one for parenting or for sibling relations. So it's like sibling dynamics aren't really not very positive in this one. Okay. Yep.
I was punished for saying God played favorites.
Yeah, you see, maybe a little bit here. I mean, God definitely gives a thumbs up to Abel here, and Abel's gonna get something else in a minute too, not just a thumbs up. He's gonna get the big old thumbs down in a moment. Linda White, Linda, you want to read a little bit?
Where are we?
Okay, where are we?
Cain now thought.
I'm sorry? Oh, Cain now thought about his brother Abel. Then when they were in the field, Cain turned on his brother Abel and killed him. And the Eternal One said to Cain, "Where is your brother A?" And he replied, "How should I know? Am I my brother's keeper?" God said, "What have you done? Your brother's blood is shrieking to me from the ground. Now you are cursed by this very soil, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hands." Want me to keep going?
One more.
When you till the soil, no longer shall it give you its yield. You shall become a rootless wanderer on the earth.
Okay, perfect. Interesting translation yet again on verse 8. In the room, what do we have in the room, Rick, on, for 4:8?
Cain said to his brother Abel.
There you go. So on verse 8, it is almost always translated as Cain said to his brother Abel. But the problem with that translation is that you don't have what Cain says to his brother Abel. You just have 3 dots like we have here in this text. And so Cain thought about his brother Abel, at least makes more sense in terms of not having, any conversation between them. But I always translate it as Cain said to his brother Abel, and we just don't know what he said. That's a mystery. We don't know what Cain actually said to Abel. So, yeah. So sometimes the text is amended, and with like brackets or put on the bottom. And Cain said to his brother Abel, "Let's go into the field." And then when they're in the field, Cain kills them. So the easiest way to get from here to there. But the rabbis have a lot of fun sort of arguing what Cain possibly said to Abel. And they create some really fantastic stories. Let's go out into the field together, my brother. Let's have a nice stroll.
There's a baseball game.
Yeah, let's go. Let's catch a ball game. Cain, what's that in your hand? Oh, never mind that. Never mind. Also, again, talking about Midrash and the powers of interpretation, right? It just says that Cain turns on his brother Abel and kills him. It doesn't say how he kills him. Does anyone have a vision of how this happened in their head that they would have thought would be here?
Beat the living daylights out of him.
Say again?
I would say strangle, but there'd be no blood.
Strangle,
He was cut.
Cut, yeah.
Probably cut.
We had knife here,
Yeah.
in the room we had stabbed, whatever. For me, it's always bludgeoned, because that's where I get from the Midrash, because the Midrash has Cain hitting him with a rock over and over again. It's actually one of my favorite Midrashim, which I think I've shared.
That would bring the blood. That would bring the blood.
That would bring the blood. So the idea is, according to the text, that Cain takes a rock and he smashes Abel with it on the knee. And Abel hops around going, "Why'd you have to do that for?" And is angry. And then Cain hits him again on the elbow. And Abel's like, "Come on, guy, what are you doing?" And Cain has to sort of keep hitting him with the rock because Cain doesn't know how to kill anybody. Cain is a tiller of soil, and there was no such thing as murder before. And so you know how to kill somebody. And so finally, he sort of hits him with the rock, and the pointy end of the rock goes into his neck, and Abel bleeds out. And that's how Abel is killed. But the Midrash, even though it sounds a little silly, the idea is that murder is unnatural, right? And that we didn't know how to do it. We had to learn how to do it, to learn how to be violent, learn how to kill people, because it's not part of our natural state. And so Cain, in his own way, was naive and innocent and not really knowing how to do this. And so he's just like beating him almost comically with the rock, trying to find the right place that would end his life. And then when he does it, he's like, "Okay, I got it, figured it out." Everybody, let me tell you how to do this. So Abel's dead. Bye Abel. Abel, by the way, one of the translations of his name is breath, and breath is very ephemeral, as we went last time, sort of short-lived. So he's not going to be around for a while. There he goes. God once again steps in about a day late and $1 short with this thing. Did it with Adam and Eve, does it here too. What happened to Abel? Leave you alone for 1 minute. Watching Sports Center over here. And I turn around for 1 second, and now we got dead person. And so Cain goes, "Hey, it wasn't my turn to watch him. How should I know? Am I my brother's keeper?" Of course, yes, you are Cain, your brother's keeper. Thank you very much. What have you done? Your brother's blood cries out from the ground. Punishment, punishment, punishment. That Cain now has to wander the earth. Kung Fu, the legend continues, right? He has to wander the earth in search of whatever it is. So that was like, oh no, I think only Rick got. That's okay. Yeah, he's just wandering around. And so Cain now has to wander the earth. And so it's very sad for poor Cain. Okay, so let me see here. We got like 3 minutes left.
Earlier, you're joking about Adam and Eve not being good parents, but they're learning from the best. He's not paying too much attention to anything.
Yeah, no one's paying attention here. I mean, come on. I turned my back on my 2-year-old for like 3 seconds, and I know it's going to be a disaster. You just have those moments as a parent where it's like, it's quiet. It's too quiet. Something is going on that ain't right. And then they're covered in marker or something, or whatever it is, or they've markered up the wall. And so you never know. So here it's the same thing. Like Adam and Eve are not around. God's not paying attention, and poor Abel's on the floor. What did you do to your brother? I don't know. So Cain, gets a punishment here. Cain said to the Eternal One, "My punishment is too heavy to bear. Seeing as you now have expelled me from the face of the soil, and I must hide from your face, I'm going to become a rootless wanderer on the earth. And anyone who finds me might kill me, because I'm going to be, a stranger in a strange land. I'm going to be wandering around. It's not so, says God. And should anyone kill Cain, he would get avenged sevenfold. So the Eternal gives Cain a sign, the mark of Cain, that none who came upon him would kill him. And then Cain went and hung out somewhere else, settled in the land of the nomads east of Eden. Of course, what we get here is an implicit understanding that it isn't just Adam, Eve, Cain, and Abel. Like that's the story that we have. But apparently there are other people, because from 14 and 15 and 16, if Cain's word, other people are going to kill him. So therefore, other people have to exist, right? And so we know about Cain and Abel and Adam and Eve, but in the background, God's created some more people as well. There are other things happening, other things going on, not just our little single shot camera frame of the Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel story. That there are other people doing other things during this time. And so Cain schleps and Cain settles east of Eden. Good book.
Maybe that's why God's not paying attention. He's out creating other.
Yeah, God's got a lot in his hands. God's busy. But you can turn on for 1 second. This is going to happen. So that sort of ends that part of the story, and then we're going to get into Cain and his wanderings a bit, which is basically means we get to read a lot of names for a long time. But we'll deal with that on the next week. Any other final questions? Any final thoughts on our Cain and Abel experience? Yeah, Bonnie.
Some religions that take it absolutely literally, word for word. Where do these other people come from?
So we have in the Bible, again, we have in that part that other people exist. They just don't let us know, what happens in terms of how those people came to be. So there's an idea that Adam and Eve had a lot more kids. We actually have one coming up. They're going to have a third child named Seth that we do get biblically. But there's an idea that there are other people around, because there have to be, in order for life to continue, right? Because there's no sisters. Not that would be great either, but you have to have something going on, right? There's actually a midrash about that, about how Cain is born with a twin sister and Abel is born with a twin sister, and the idea is for them to do the old switcheroo, so to speak, but not really the most palatable story either. I love that this is being recorded. Sorry, Pete. So we're gonna need to have other people, so we don't have a sort of incestuous experience. We need to have other people on earth.
Stepping off stage.
Off stage, on stage left, there's more people. Don't look behind the curtain. There's more people over there. So that's how we have it. We need to have more folks. Or else, ew.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions that I can cause problems with?
Interesting story tonight.
Always.
It was interesting, and not that we didn't know this story before, but you added this added a little zest to it.
That's what they call me.
Right.
But what was the
Add a
name of the
little
one
zest.
that you remember Marilyn Warner talked about?
Yeah, add a
Lilith?
little zest to murder and
Bad person.
Lilith. Are you talking about Lilith?
Where's Lilith?
Where's Lilith? So Lilith is in the Midrash. Lilith comes, in rabbinic interpretation later as a way to further create less tension between the two creation stories. So you sort of have man and woman created, and then you have man created, then Eve comes out of the rib. So Lilith is created to sort of take that first spot. And that Lilith is a demon goddess, a demon spirit that gets to marry Adam. And perhaps not surprisingly, a marriage between a human being and a demon doesn't work out so well. Perhaps things were not simpatico in a lot of ways. So Lilith gets cast off. She gets thrown out and banished from the Garden of Eden. And Eve comes in later into the picture. So Eve's like the second wife. And Lilith, from that point on, as a side note, is very jealous of any marriage that ever occurs. And she is always on the lookout, on the prowl to steal someone else's husband. And when does she do that? For 5 points, someone tell me when that happens. If you have been to a Jewish wedding before, especially in the Orthodox tradition, you'll see before the wedding starts, the bride circles the groom 7 times.
Leah's
and the
right.
reason you circle 7 times, 7 is a magical, mystical number, and you're creating a protective shield in that moment against Lilith coming down and snatching him from the chuppah and kidnapping him and taking him away or killing him.
Never heard that before.
Me neither.
I've never heard that. Obviously, Leah heard it before. I've never heard that before, Rabbi.
Yeah, no. So that's one of the mystical ideas behind the circling. That Lilith is always sort of prowling for another husband. You have to protect him from Lilith's gaze, because Lilith will either steal him or kill him at night.
Very
Fiddler
interesting.
on the roof. You have to circle.
Thank you, Rabbi. Very interesting class.
There are a lot of great stories on Lilith. There's some really great books out that are full of Lilith stories. There is a greater subsection of Jewish folklore that it has all these stories about devils and demons and spirits and possessions and goblins, all this stuff that have sort of they've fallen out of use in a way for most of us. But there is a very rich mythological lore of all these fantastic sort of creatures and spirits. And so it's definitely worth a read. Gollum, Golem, Gollum of the Rings, but golems and things like that exist. And they are a fun read. I mean, one of my favorite stories has to do with the possessed Kugel. It's just not a Bima ready story, but it's one of my favorite stories about a demonic Kugel.
And Rabbi,
yes?
strangely enough, years ago, there was a magazine called Lilith.
Yes.
And it became like a feminist magazine.
Yeah, because that's the whole idea, is that Lilith is mistreated. That Lilith sort of abused and passed away. And we're reclaiming Lilith, as a feminist icon, similar to the way that Vashti in certain circles has been reclaimed as a feminist symbol, right? For standing up to the drunken, boorish lot of a husband that she had, and so Lilith is a similar way that Lilith gets a little mistreated, and so it's subversive, but it's a creative and fun, cool thing that they did. Yeah, maybe. Okay, my friends, we are
good class.
Today.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you,
Pleasure.
Rabbi.
If you're interested in
Thank
adult
you.
B'nai Mitzvah,
Thank you.
please stay on the link for adult B'nai Mitzvah classes, and we'll catch everyone else on the flip.
Night.
Bye.
Night.
Bye, everybody.